Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Number 5, what's something that you're going to start doing in 2025? Mine were easy on these. I need to wake up even earlier so that I can have the white space that I talked about. Like, I really need to be up at 5:45 every day.
It's so funny you say that. That was mine. I'm going to get up earlier because the things that are getting edged out are in that morning earlier space.
Same. Me too. Yep. Same thing for me. Working out, my quiet. I mean, I do my Bible study every morning, but I really would like to have more time to do that. And then just my writing white space. I also said something to start doing next year that I honestly haven't done that great in the last 10 years because I haven't really had to, but I need to be more aggressive about saving more money. I just need to save more. And so that's something I'm going to do next year. And then I actually said, start using the let them theory. And I'm finding myself when things happen, I'm like, let them, just let them. This morning during church, this is such a stupid example, but the kids get this from Adam. Adam is always shaking his leg or bouncing his knee or his whole body is always moving and shaking. And I looked over during the sermon and Amelia's legs are bouncing up and down and Addison's legs are bouncing up and down. And I was like, what y'all are making me a nervous wreck. Can all y'all stop bouncing for a second so I can pay attention? And Adam said, let them, just let them. If they want to bounce their legs, just let them. And I was like, ugh. So I sat there and said to myself, okay, I'm just going to let them sit there and continue to shake the entire aisle right now. But just little things, I'm just going to work on let them more. And then my last one was a guy that we had him on our podcast, Graham Cochran, who wrote the book Rebel.
Yeah.
I've been listening. If you haven't been listening to his podcast, Linda, you would love he's had some great episodes lately. I'll shoot it over to you, but it's just called The Graham Cochran Show. And actually he's been helping us with a couple things on our community. But he said that he had this idea come to him for next year that he thinks will be his next book. But he's been talking about focusing on effortless businesses that are more passive. It's not that you're not working hard, but they're a little more effortless than the grind of some of the things. And so one of the things I said to start next year is just start thinking about effortless businesses and just start getting that in my mind a little bit more.
Well, I'd like to know about those kind of businesses.
Me too. I know.
I think Joe Polish calls it easy, lucrative, and fun.
Yeah. He's always said that. I love that.
To be ELF. Easy, lucrative, and fun.
Yeah. I'm like, how can I get more of those?
I don't know. I think once you get completely effortless, I don't know. I'd have to hear his theory on that because I've never had a business that was completely effortless. You know what I mean?
He says it's not like you're not going to do anything, but it's like that. He says with AI and with some of the changes that are coming out, that there are ways that we can make things easier than what, we've been used to doing in the past, basically.
It's funny. We were up here in Whitefish. We were looking at a piece of land to possibly do an RV park, and Press put into ChatGPT, if we have 30 days to do the due diligence, what are the actions? What are the things we need to do in the time frame? It gave it day 1 to 6, 6 to 10. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
That thing gave us, and stuff that you wouldn't even think about. Then we would have missed, right? If we hadn't maybe put that into ChatGPT. It's going to be pretty amazing what it helps us
for everything in his whole life. He uses it for everything. But it was funny when we were driving back from Florida, Amelia was working on some of her math work, and the math that they do these days, I'm like, I've never heard of that in my entire. Adam and I were like, we don't even know what that means. I mean, we'd never even heard of it before. And so Adam's like, let's put it in ChatGPT, and it came back with she said, I have to show my work. And it came back step by step by step. And I mean, she just used it. It wasn't really cheating because she still had to figure it out. But we were like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. Because we didn't even know what it meant, what she was working on. But it's just crazy, the stuff that it can do now.
And you would think math would be a timeless thing that didn't change.
I have no idea. It's wild math I've never heard of. I'm like, wow, that's either I was absent that whole week or I've had we never learned that. I don't know. Anything else besides waking up earlier for you to start?
Just more planning, again, reflection and preparation and reflection. I go back to that. And after I've done that for a couple of years and I haven't done it, I got to move it to the top of the list. Yes, definitely earlier. I've been pretty consistent on my Bible reading. So just get up, spend some time praying and quiet, because I tend to always stick something in my ears. So I'm going to spend a little more solitude time there to think and make sure that I'm looking at, how do I feel about yesterday? What do I think needs to happen today based on what I did or didn't get done yesterday? And just a little more time and in something that's hard for me, which is preparation. And then in the evening, try to reflect back on, how do I feel about the day? Because otherwise you wind up with, where did all the days go?
Yeah.
And what did I actually really get accomplished? Which I know I probably got more accomplished than I realized. So even spending a little bit more time on, reflecting on the things, the accomplishments that I have accomplished, because I do think I live in the gap quite a bit instead of the gain. So spending a little more time in the gain.
Are you still using the positive focus worksheet?
I'm terrible about those stupid worksheets.
I love that worksheet. That's like one of my favorite, because it's quick, but you really get to
well, let me just tell you this. I use them when I'm in the workshop.
Yeah.
But I did say that to myself this morning. That's one part of my things of stop looking for something new and go to some of the things I've already paid money for and I've got. The answers are already things I already have in my life. I'm just not using them. So that positive focus would definitely be one.
And what else I was thinking? How you had your impossible goal of growing the region in an industry that's going backwards? You should fill out an impact filter for that.
Yes.
Because then you could see what the success criteria would actually be, and like what would it mean if you did that, and what would it mean if you didn't do that. Like, I just love that. I feel like that's like such a timeless one that I use it still for everything so often.
Yeah, impact filter is my favorite. Honestly, one of my favorite tools.
Okay, number 6, what are you going to continue doing next year as last year? I had no alcohol. I still haven't had alcohol, and it's like the best I've ever, not that I drank a lot before, but just even like on the weekends or at an event or anything, I haven't had alcohol since, I don't know, gosh, like fall of year before last, 2023. So I'm going to keep going this year with that. And it's just made me feel good. I lost weight. I don't know. I'm going to continue no alcohol, staying on my supplements and quarterly blood work, deepening my faith, and really praying for more godly relationships. Was a big focus. It was crazy because last year I prayed so hard for that every single morning. And I have had some of like it's crazy. God's just dropped in like some of the most godly people into our lives over the last year. So it's just been great. And then being intentional with experiences and trips. And I think last year, one of the reasons why I felt such balance was because I was so intentional with it. And I knew what trips we were going to go on, the things that I wanted to accomplish, doing this with Adam, doing this with the kids, and so I need to be, when I'm intentional with it, then it happens usually. So just continue being more intentional with the experiences so that I can feel that balance again this year.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to continue looking for great who's, because they've solved every problem I've ever had.
That's a good one. I'm adding that to mine.
Yeah, looking, and honestly checking my calendar ever so often and saying because I think I said this last year on the podcast, but every time I go to a meeting, my number one takeaway was I wasn't spending enough time in my calendar looking for who's, right? So checking that ever so often and say, how am I doing on looking for the who's? How did I do the past 30 days? How many career visionings did I do? How many more could I do next month? So to me, that's a big one, because that's going to be the game changer in big goals and big dreams, is the right who's around me. And part of that means continuing to stay in masterminds that are super high-minded people, making sure I'm staying in those. Because sometimes I tend to think, oh gosh, that takes up so much time. Maybe I should not do that group or do that program. And I know the answer, that is not the answer. So not doing less of that is not the answer for me. So continue staying in high-minded groups like Dan Sullivan's, Gary Keller's, things like that. I'm going to continue on my carnivore journey. I feel the best. I've really struggled since Italy, but I booked a carnivore cruise for me and my sister for her birthday and Christmas. Because
is Betty doing carnivore too?
Oh no, she's not carnivore. She don't have to do carnivore. There's just a small
Oh,
group of carnivore people going to be on it. No, no, what happened is I realized because she works for me, I never do anything with her as my sister.
well, you know what I noticed that I was going to ask you was I didn't see her in the Christmas card. And I was like, did she not come there?
Oh, she has to be in there somewhere. Yeah, she was
I
there.
have to go back and look. I know. I
I'll
thought,
look and look, she
I
was
could
there. Her hair might have been a little blonder or something maybe that day, or
okay,
maybe
I'll
her
have to go back and look.
highlights were lighter. Okay, so what I did was I booked, you know, I don't know if you met my friend Jean. Anyway, Jean Tanner's an agent out of Utah. She listens to our podcast all the time. She's so good. She'll reach out to me sometime about some of it. But anyway, she's just a sharp lady. She's done some amazing things in her career. And I'm kind of helping her because she wants to, you know, replace herself in her business and get a little more freedom. So I've kind of been coaching her a little bit on that stuff. But anyway, her and I both do carnivore. So we booked this cruise where there's a small group of carnivore people going to be on it. It's the end of January.
Wow.
So I know myself well enough to know I got to place these markers kind of a little bit out in front of me so that I know that they're coming and I know I have to prepare for them. But I am going to continue on the carnivore journey because I do feel like it's an answer to a lot of my health issues.
Yeah.
I'm always good at working out, but I have managed to now find a trainer in every city that I go to. So I'm going to
That's
continue
so
to
good.
make
That was
sure
one of your goals from last year.
that was one of my goals from last year. I now have a trainer in Ohio. I have a trainer in Whitefish and I have a trainer in Texas. So
That's good.
continue to book those in advance before I get to that city so that it's on the calendar, even if I have to get up at 5 a.m. and do it. And then continue putting big dreams and goals that really stretch me and create a crisis for me because I don't know how to do them.
Yeah. I laminated so the Ben Hardy Impossible Goal class that you did, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't realize, but that Jess that works for Adam, she did it. She was in it also at the same time you were in, and she sent me a picture of this graphic, and I actually just printed it and laminated it, and I'm picking it up at Staples this afternoon. But it was like this blue square, and it had like all these white lines, but then at the top is like a long rectangular box, and there's only like 2 or 3 of the lines make it up into that box, and it's like that's like the do you know what I'm talking about? It's like the
The bottom is probably be your new floor.
yes.
Is it your new floor? Okay.
Yep.
What you're
And then
willing
like
to say yes to and what is kind of the 80% goes away. You have a new floor and then there's only a few things above that you'll do. That's probably
yes.
which one it is.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Well, I printed that and laminated it because I was like, okay, that is well, and also she told me too that kind of represented like trying to think of how she said it, but of all the people that are doing like regular goals versus like the 1%ers that actually are doing the impossible goal, which is like all the way at the very so I printed that because I thought, okay, I need to be looking at that all the time to be thinking like, what am I doing that's truly impossible, that's stretching me, making me think so much bigger than just what I'm regularly thinking.
One of the things too that I was going to add on that I'm going to continue to do, I am loving working with that Kendra Hall on Stories That Stick. What made me think of that is there was a guy in there, some of their goals are impossible goals.
Wow.
And so it just reminded me, number one, we got to hang around more with people who are having impossible goals. You know, I think that's because then that becomes the norm as much as anything. Right. And again, we learn from each other, watching each other try to accomplish. I learn as much when I hear people talking about their impossible goals and what they're doing than I do even thinking through my own sometimes.
Yeah, that reminded me too. I don't know if you saw the email, but Ken Wimberly mentioned that episode of our podcast in his newsletter, and he emailed you and I and said that he's been working on telling his story better and that he loved that episode. And I was like, reach out to Linda because she'll tell you about Kendra's class. But he was like, I loved her.
Yeah, I actually can continue. We just had our group call, and she took those of us that turned our story in. She took it, and I learned a lot. I still have a lot to learn because this is not something that you now. For her, it might be natural, but she spent her whole life learning to tell stories. But I did ask her. I said, "Is this something that we can actually learn to do?" Because first of all, I miss all the detail, and now all of a sudden you got to go back and identify detail. Well, that's hard for me, right? Because I'll miss every detail that's out there, right? I'm only in the big picture. And so in this, when you're starting to look at a story, you're starting to look at the details that matter. And
Yeah.
so I know I need to continue working with her. So I think we can continue with her, and like in 2 weeks, we'll have another call. And I plan on
Oh, good.
continuing that because I'm gaining so much from learning from her on the importance of stories and how to tell them. If you
Yeah.
really want people to understand a message, the best way to do it is learn to tell stories around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you think about some of the best people that we've listened to or that we like to learn from, all of them are great at telling stories.
Yeah. Well, and I still think about some of Mo's stories, like the hummingbird story,
Yeah.
the lady that Lily Mae Tillman story. I
Yep.
mean, oh my God, those
Yeah.
stories after 30 years, I still remember, and they were impactful.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. That's a great point. Okay, last question, number 7 to wrap up. What can you do today to take the first step now that you have a set of directions? Mine was easy. I just need to go deep on my calendar and time blocking, which actually Adam and I are doing this afternoon. But we've already started it, but we're continuing. I need to get some sort of accountability around my wake up time, which tomorrow I start the 21 days of prayer and fasting. So
Oh yeah,
that
I was
will,
going to look that up. Does that start
yeah, it
tomorrow?
starts tomorrow. Yeah. Yep. So, and it'll be early your time, depending on where you're going to be. But yes, it's on Church of the Highlands website.
What time is it Eastern time?
Eastern time at 7 a.m.
So it'll be like 5 for me, but that's okay. I need to be up anyway.
Yep. Yep.
And then
And so, and they're actually doing it in person at Seacoast here, the exact same thing. So I'm getting up and going in person this
oh,
year.
good for you.
Yeah,
I'm
I
jealous.
did that last year and I loved it. But and then my last one on what I can do today is I loved what Mark Cole shared that he and John Maxwell have done the last couple of years, where they personally have set up personal advisory boards. So I have Heather and Adam, and really probably I'll add Nancy to it.
Yeah.
But that will have when I'm going to make big decisions for the year, or big calendar, that just another set of people, because I'm want to say yes to everything, and I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this. So I feel like in order to hit the things that I want to hit this year, I need a personal advisory board like they have, to look at that, who I trust, cares about and loves me enough to be like, that's a no, or this is a great, or this is great. But so that's one of my things that I'm going to do, that I have started to do as a first step.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Okay. So next step for me is definitely earlier, to give myself the space I need, because apparently I don't find it throughout the day if I don't get up a little bit earlier. And I want smaller checks and balances. I don't want to wait till the end of 2025 to go back and reflect. Yep. So once a month, going back, looking the pictures, doing the reflection, and each day doing a reflection on the day before. So how do I pull that into a very narrow focus, so that I don't, 6 months go by or a year go by. And then I haven't had a one-on-one coach in a while. I'm going to look for a really good one-on-one coach this year, because I feel like I kind of need it if I'm going to go for these bigger goals.
Yeah.
I'm going to do less little goals and more bigger goals, just something that changes everything, that really makes a big difference in my work life. So I'd have a bigger one for my personal life, and I'd have a bigger one for my business life, and not worry about all the little ones, and then look at what's the path to get to that bigger goal, instead of having just a ton of little goals that I can check a bunch of boxes by.
That's what Adam's doing this year too. He really pared down his goals, and he just has a couple of really big ones, and that's his focus. He didn't make a list of 30 like we normally do. And
spend more time focusing on my future self, because if you design the future self correctly, it will pull you through all the decisions on a day-to-day basis, because there'll be only a few things you can actually say yes to.
So good. Love that. Yep. Love it. Awesome. Great questions. We'll link her episode. I liked at the end, she said, it's the little things that make the biggest impact in your life and your year. And really just going through and knowing what those little things are. But yeah, this is great. I loved answering these. I thought it was awesome.
Yep, I did too. So I think questions are the best way to get our own selves to self-discover. And until we self-discover, we won't make a change. So I think sometimes sitting down with great questions causes you to really reflect and make discoveries that you wouldn't possibly make without asking those kind of questions to yourself. So, yeah. So, yes, besides Martha Stewart, Mel Robbins is my new girl crush. And I got to figure out, I'm going to Martha's dermatologist, got to figure out what I'm going to do with Mel's. But
we need a whole episode when you get back from Martha's dermatologist too.
Oh, you will definitely get that. And then we're also going to we'll do a podcast on our ideas and what we learned on the reflection we did from her book, Let Them. And I bought it. By the way, if you order it right now, it doesn't even come out till like February 15th. So for Valentine's, I got all the people I care about a copy of the book. My daughter-in-laws, my daughter, everybody's getting a copy of that book for
it's
Valentine's.
So good.
It's so good.
It is so good. So good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Dana, another great episode, and I guess I'll see you hopefully next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.